Welcome to the Near Memo, a weekly conversation about search, social, and commerce. What happened, why it matters, and the implications for local. Let's move on to our second item. We've spent a lot of time talking about that. We may run long today. So Allure Aesthetics was accused of kind of large-scale review fraud, and they received a significant fine from the FTC. We talked about
it was a federal. It was a Department of
litigation.
Justice.
Okay,
my Department of Justice.
My mistake.
Actually, New York's Washington Attorney General brought a case in federal court in late November.
Okay,
they were of review fraud that included forcing users to sign NDAs.
And this is a plastic surgeon. Yeah.
Right. Forcing users to sign NDAs that they wouldn't leave bad reviews, and which is against the 2016 Consumer Choice Law.
Right.
So they were convicted in April, and in July they signed a consent decree to pay $5 million in fines and restitution because they once people had to sign the NDA, and then they had to pay $100 to even get a consult. So it was all deceptive. Yep. And then they were also accused of having employees and other people write reviews, and then they were accused of paying people off to get rid of negative reviews.
So it was a pretty comprehensive, illegal and unethical scheme, and it's been in the news for a number of years now. Very, very widely known. And what's happened at Google?
So clearly, this guy was supposed to do an audit and remove any reviews on any platform that were related to these bad actions. Clearly, Google, probably under their terms of service, should have removed the reviews because they violate so many terms of service and laws, should have removed the reviews. And yet, if you go search on best plastic surgeon in Seattle, this company still ranks number one. And when they still have 935 reviews and a 4.8 ranking. That compares to the 937 reviews they had in July when they signed the consent decree. And Google knew about these reviews probably since the inception of the lawsuit.
Well, there's been a lot of publicity.
There's been a lot of publicity.
Yeah.
And I took the time to report this company via Google's fraud business redressal form, where you can report on companies in July to see if Google, in fact, would do anything. And they haven't. And the problem is that if you do a search for cosmetic surgeon in Seattle, or plastic surgery Seattle, or best plastic surgeon Seattle, or best plastic surgeon, you get a 3-pack. And all you see is the Google results, which looks stellar. And you would have to dig very deep to find any evidence that this guy has committed fraud around these reviews. That 500 of it, he has 900 reviews, which is 700 more than the nearest competitor. Suspicious in and of itself. 500 of those came during the 2017-2021 period where he was convicted of fraud. The fraud probably extended beyond that in several years in both directions. And yet, when you compare the results now to the results that were visible in July or April, it's the same. And worse, because he's using name spam. It's not just Allure Aesthetic. It's not just Allure Aesthetic Dr. Javad Sajan. His name is Allure Aesthetic Dr. Javad Sajan, best plastic surgeon in Seattle, is his business name, which is clearly to manipulate search results. So here's somebody who's committed fraud, manipulating search results, generating probably $250,000 minimally from the Google placements every year. And still ranks number one.
Probably considerably more than that, I would imagine.
Could be. I mean, there were 10,000 clients over a 2-year period. So my calculation, cut those clients in half, took the average price of a plastic surgery job and multiply. That came to
Well, is there such a thing? Facelift, you know,
Could be
breast
more than that.
augmentation, liposuction. Let's name all the procedures.
This
Um,
deceptive presence is visible
well,
in maps, in ads, and in search, and in the local pack, everywhere you look. So,
so the astonishing thing here, given Google's sort of rhetoric around safety and protecting users and cleaning up the search results and their algorithms getting more sophisticated. The astonishing thing here is that there's been all this publicity about this case for years, and they have taken no action. I mean, Google's taken manual actions against site reputation abuse in a different context, but you would have thought that somebody would have gone in and whacked this guy. And they also have this badge of shame that we've talked about in the UK, and I guess it's going to roll out here, where you'll get the consumer will get a notification that the particular profile was caught essentially doing something sketchy with reviews to warn the consumer, and that doesn't exist in this particular case either.
right, but I looked at his Yelp account also, which does have a badge of shame on it, but the badge of shame on the Yelp account is below the page, below the fold on a very big desktop screen. And he still shows 131 reviews with a 4.5 rating when you first get to the page. And I think 80 of those reviews, of the 87 of those 131 reviews, occurred during this period of criminality, of convicted criminality. Again, the criminality could have and unethical behavior could have extended beyond this 4-year period and probably did. And so Yelp only is slightly better by adding a badge of shame, which points out to me the difficulty with Google's current badge of shame design by putting it on the review page. We know two things from our research. With doctors, people scan through the results to find the best doctors, which is signified by the highest rating with the most
Right.
reviews, and they will scan through the local finder to find them. This guy wins hands down. He's got 4 times as many reviews as the nearest competitor. And we know that very few of them in the medical field, only 22%, actually went in and read the reviews. So if the badge of shame is hidden on the review page, the chance of it being read is quite
Right.
small. Right. So, and then the thing that really pissed me off, if I got to get going here, is this post yesterday from Google that says how to spot scammers and what to do if you encounter one, right? In it, they say, oh, we stopped all these scams in Gmail. But on the web, you better do more research and check it out yourself. That's what they say. They totally absolve themselves of any responsibility for the abuses that are clearly occurring in their results. For Christ's sakes, who wants a plastic surgery job from a guy who's cheating on his reviews?
Well, and in that post about safety and anti-phishing efforts, they don't say anything about reviews. They don't say anything about how to spot review fraud. I mean, in fairness to Google, there may have been posts in the past where they talk about that in a dedicated way. I don't know off the top of my head, but that particular one doesn't address reviews.
No,
but
you look at how hard it would be for a consumer to vet this. They would have to look at the search results. Then they'd have to do a search on the brand. And even then, if the guy is good, he's been pushing these bad reports. I haven't checked lately, but these bad reports lower in the results. I don't know. But it'd be very difficult for users to be able to easily and quickly vet this
well, I mean,
if this guy's honest.
in this country, on many fronts, the burden is placed on it's a caveat emptor thing. The burden is placed on the user, the buyer, to really discern what's true and what's false, with few consequences for the vendor, for the shady practitioner. I mean, in this case, it's different. Although enforcement really hasn't happened, notwithstanding the fine, in terms of what consumers see, there hasn't really been any enforcement. You're doing a brand search on the guy's name?
I am, yeah. So if you do a brand search on Allure Aesthetics Seattle, there's another Allure Aesthetics someplace. He's got a site link, so he takes up the top third of the page. I haven't done this
Right.
on mobile. And you see his 935 4.8. Then you see his 4.5 on Yelp. And then you do see the Washington State ruling that he acted illegally, and then you see Instagram. So of the top up above, again on a big screen, you do see one article, but it'd be very difficult for consumers to vet this themselves, I think.
Yep. Right, and it's symptomatic of a much larger problem, obviously, which is why we talk about it. And again, sort of Section 230 of the Children's Decency Act. No, that's not
Communications Decency.
Communications, not the Children's Decency Act. The Communications Decency Act. There is no obligation on the part of an internet service provider or platform to moderate their content in any way. They do it out of the goodness of their heart and to polish their friendly, their brand reputations. But there's no legal consequences for them not taking these reviews down.
And they're given the freedom, though, which is also interesting to me. They're given the freedom to make editorial choices about this content. And in Google's case, if a business is accused of incentivizing reviews and it comes into the forum, Google will come back and ask the person reporting them, when did you first see the incentivized reviews? And they'll give a date 3 years ago, and they'll show a flyer, whatever. And then Google will take the reviews off back to that date. So if they're even acting consistent within their own editorial guidelines, this is clearly as similar to incentivization in that the reviews are fake from 2017.
Well, I think there's no dispute. Obviously,
right.
This has been
and
adjudicated.
Yet, despite being reported, they haven't acted
taken
consistently within
Yeah.
their own editorial decisions under Section 2.
Yeah, I mean, we can continue to shake our fists at this, and it's not clear that anything is going to happen. But let's move on to our final item, which is an interesting. Yes, exactly. Get off.
For those of you who are
lawn.
listening to this, that was Mike shaking his fists and rolling his eyes and his head back and forth negatively.
Yeah.
So,
I would have gotten away with it if it hadn't been for you meddling kids. All right.
Thanks for joining David, Mike, and Greg. To stay on top of the latest developments in local, subscribe to our newsletter at nearmedia.co. We'll see you next week.